today. Nicole Grams joined Esri's St. Louis office in 2019 as a solution engineer for state government. Prior, she worked in city and county government in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and in a wide array of industries from hazard modeling and insurance to precision agriculture. Nicole holds a BS in meteorology that she considers most useful for its role in introducing her to GIS and her husband, and also an MS in geoinformatics. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Nicole. I'll be monitoring the chat for any questions or other technical issues that you might have. So.
Okay, yeah, if you can keep an eye out for that video and let me know if it doesn't play as we tested it too. That'll be maybe 25 minutes in or so. So let me get myself in presenter mode. Gosh, I forgot that I wrote that bio for the last conference and now I feel really doofy. Okay, sharing. Moving. How does that look? Okay, seeing a thumbs up from Erika, and that means I will get started. So, hello, broader Kansas community. Nice to have you all on the line with me today for our April Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Cam, for your great organization and hosting. I'm happy to be doing a reprise of a presentation I gave at the CAM conference last year that I called ArcGIS Field Maps, one app to rule them all. Hope you enjoy my little nerdy pun there, but the goal of this presentation is to explain it a bit. The agenda, since I know a lunch and learn is a bit more of a casual environment, this could be somewhat of a choose your own adventure, Goosebumps book sort of event today, because I'm going to spend the first 20 minutes giving sort of a beginner's overview to field maps. What would I tell you if I only had a 20-minute discussion? So I'm going to try to cram a lot into a high-level discussion first, then talk about the road ahead. So if you're already a field maps user, and you feel like the overview will be things you already know, feel free to go heat up your lunch or make your sandwich or let your dog outside and join me for the roadmap portion in about 20 minutes. Then I'm hoping everybody will be around for a quick demo because we all know that's where things get the most fun or potentially have the most room for chaos. And then I figured I'd wind down the hour that we have together with some more technical nitty-gritty details about high accuracy mapping, Bluetooth receivers, that type of thing, offline mapping, iOS device support outside of a traditional phone or tablet, etc. So that's the agenda. Feel free to join me where and when you can and meet up along the way if that works best for you. So again, I'm going to attempt to go through the big picture first. This would be sort of a 20-minute version of the whole presentation, so I'd be skimming out a lot of that more technical detail. This is a really good place to start if you're just getting into field mobility workflows. Now, field mobility at Esri, we think about that kind of as a cycle, where maybe on the left side of this diagram, there are the stages of planning. These are maybe the things that happen back in the office. So planning for data collection in the field takes a lot of time. And then coordinating which employees or workers are going to go to what sites and monitoring their progress. All of those things might happen either from a GIS manager's point of view or other stakeholder or coordinator role. Whereas the right side of this diagram, navigate, understand, capture, this is kind of the workflow for the person actually collecting data. So once you have your assignment, how do I get to that site? how do I understand the location that I'm going to be in and where exactly I need to perform data collection or editing, and what am I capturing while I'm on site. So this diagram that I'm starting with is old on purpose. This is the first, one of the first presentations I gave when I joined Esri was about field mobility. And so that was in 2019. And at that point, ArcGIS Collector had already been out for 5 years, if you can believe it. It came out in 2014. And as more and more customers were adopting field applications in their workflows and modernizing things that maybe once were processes on paper and moving to an app approach, Esri kind of started adding more capabilities. And to be honest, we followed the precedent that was being set by Apple and Google, where on your phone, if you think about all the different apps we have, you have a different one for every workflow. So I would never open my alarm clock or my clock app and expect to take a note there, or to enter a calendar event, or to navigate. Those would all be separate apps. So that's kind of the approach that Esri was taking at the time. So all of these lovely icons you see, from ArcGIS Workforce on the left to ArcGIS Navigator on the upper right, ArcGIS Explorer, ArcGIS Collector, which was kind of the linchpin of all of our early field workflow apps, and then ArcGIS Tracker. That was the same approach that we took, one app for every action. However, what we have found and what we've heard from all of you, our customers and organizations and partners, was that this was quite cumbersome, because you are maintaining multiple apps on multiple devices for multiple users. It's hard to train users on that many applications. It's hard to keep your training materials up to date. It's hard to manage any offline content. You might have duplication of offline content. And it's hard to always make sure you have the latest version of all of these disparate apps. So with that in mind, in 2020, we introduced ArcGIS Field Maps. And this became the one app to rule them all, because it integrated every stage of the field mobility workflow, from planning in the office and coordinating your staff and workforce, to what's actually occurring on site and in the field, navigating there, understanding the location, capturing the data, and then bringing it back around to monitor progress as those field workflows are underway. So those 5 key capabilities are available in Field Maps. These are the capabilities that you would have known from ArcGIS Explorer, so map viewing and adding markup in more of a basic user or even an unauthenticated user's perspective. Then the capabilities that would be taken, that would be carried out by an employee or a trusted staff member: data collection, asset inspection, doing things that are actually writing to data sets, were important capabilities of ArcGIS Collector. And then the ability to turn on location tracking used to be offered in a standalone app called ArcGIS Tracker, which I'll tell you a story about a little later. But now all 5 of those capabilities, or all 3 of those apps, are now integrated in ArcGIS Field Maps. All of these functions from those 3 separate apps and more are available in ArcGIS Field Maps. So you may notice here the top 3, Explorer, Collector, Tracker. Those are there, but we are still waiting on the functionality for ArcGIS Workforce, which is for tasking and work order management, as well as navigation for custom routing capabilities. Those are still on the roadmap, not yet integrated. I know when the product team was first putting out roadmaps, we were discussing those. We always knew those would be a later phase in this integration approach. I kind of thought we would have a specific quarter in 2022 to expect those capabilities. Maybe that's something that will be announced at UC, or that we'll hear about soon. But those functions are still on the road ahead. So again, by integrating 3 of those apps into one and eventually 5, we're going to have multiple benefits. Our customers are going to be able to deploy and learn a single app and sign in only once. Again, eliminating duplication of offline content and overall having fewer apps to manage their footprint. And this is going to bring us a greater deal of consistency across apps and help us think about the field operations workflow as a continuous cycle rather than really disparate slices of one whole process. So if you are hearing all of this and going, whoa, big news, had no idea. I hope this is a friendly little wake up call that the apps that have already been integrated, so Explorer, Tracker, and Collector, have been deprecated as of December 2021. So we gave a full year's notice before that occurred, and it should be a really smooth process. But if this is the first time you're hearing it, I don't want you to panic. It just means that Esri is no longer updating the iOS or the Google and Android app stores, and no longer supporting those products via technical support. As for Windows, they will not yet be retired. So if you're using a Windows 10 platform, you can continue to use Collector, for example, but no further enhancements to that platform are planned at this time. So if this is raising alarm bells for you, again, please don't freak out. Just let your account team know. I'm a solution engineer. It's part of my job to help you make a plan to adopt the latest technology. And it really shouldn't be scary for your users at all. I'll show you how similar the user interfaces are. It should not be a big lift. If anything, it's just going to be a consolidation. So let's just step through each of what the disparate apps offered and how they look in ArcGIS Field Maps today. So the things you could do in Explorer, I think a lot of people overlook Explorer or perhaps forget that anyone could download this app and use it. They didn't have to have a named user. So if the map was shared publicly, it could have been shared perhaps via a QR code, and someone can log in to use that app anonymously. We see that in some like state DNR or parks agencies that heavily used Explorer for statewide map atlases, for example. You could also use Explorer with just a viewer type. So we traditionally think about viewers as read-only, but there is a lot that you can do with Explorer in terms of just opening a map, navigating it, using all the tools that come with a web map that we probably take for granted as really being tools, like a layer list, legend, a north arrow. You can also search for locations and then use some out of the box directions capabilities, such as with Google or Apple Maps, and then measuring tools. All of that stuff that you could do in Explorer, you can still do in Field Maps. In addition, all of the map markup capabilities that were available in Explorer are also integrated into Field Maps. And if you notice in these screenshots, you're probably not going to notice much UI difference. It's really just a matter of building out the same menus to incorporate more tools from the 3 different apps. So your users should not be suddenly overwhelmed by some drastic change. If they're doing markup in Explorer, they still have this option in Field Maps. Basic lines, arrows, areas, text that can be saved to 1 or more layers and turned on or off. Now, the mobile app, which I think is probably the most commonly used app of this product suite, formerly known as Collector, now all of those capabilities are in Field Maps mobile app as well. So this would be for our editors who are in the field. They are creating geometry or editing it. They are using robust forms for their inspections that are related tables back to assets. They're performing high accuracy data collection. All of those workflows that you knew from Collector are available in the Field Maps mobile app, which I'll show you a video of later. The thing that's new about Field Maps is the web app. And for those of you who have configured web maps for data collection in the field, you know that a lot of those settings and configuration came via the pop-up. So what's the field type going to look like? What fields need to be visible or editable? And then how is the map shared and what kind of settings do you have at the map level? A lot of that is now rolled into these companion web application that you can access in ArcGIS Online or your enterprise portal. And this would be for those of you that have responsibilities of preparing a web map for use in the field. So configuring what map tools should be available, what collection options should be available, what happens if you click on a feature or you add a feature, what actions are taken in what is possible from the menu, and whether or not location tracking is enabled. The web app is also where you'll configure the offline experience and where you'll share and deploy your maps more broadly. And you can also, like, say your web map wasn't perfect when you saved it and you needed to make a change to add another layer or table, you can do that in the web app interface as well. It looks a lot like the new map viewer. The two are very closely related. So I'll show you this experience a bit later. And then last but not least, the capabilities in our former friend Tracker. For location tracking, this is also available in Field Maps. So you'll see if first and foremost from the web app, you have to enable location tracking. And that's something that you have to enable at the organizational level too. And your users can turn tracking on or off on their device. They can choose if there's a duration that tracks should be captured. And tracks are not just lines, but also breadcrumb points. And they're stored in a new track type. You can use a separate app called Track Viewer to share those tracks with others. And those track lines, those track breadcrumbs, and they're really neat. In the Track Viewer, you can see the activity, which is determined based on the rate of travel. So whether your field worker was driving, walking, or stationary, as well as their speed, you can see their accuracy at any of the given breadcrumb points. And it's possible to turn on your tracking from either your device and that even includes like your Apple Watch. So it's pretty neat. My little anecdote about location tracking comes from the 2020 presidential election. I was working as an election official with St. Louis County, and obviously security of voting equipment was a huge concern for voters and Board of Election alike. So at the end of the night, we were already using a survey 123 to report wait times, but at the end of the night, we turned on the little toggle to start location tracking and then placed the phone in the cage with the election equipment. So back at the Board of Elections, the staff were watching on a dashboard and seeing real-time tracks of the Board of Election trucks who were going to each polling place and picking up the cage of equipment. And from there, we watched those tracks in real time as we saw the trucks winding throughout the county and returning to the headquarters of the Board of Election. That way, if any of the trucks went rogue, started driving to Illinois, making a break for it, they would know in real time because Tracker was turned on those iPhones that were embedded with each set of materials. So that was a pretty neat example of using Tracker. The last thing I'll mention in my overview of Field Maps is how the user types and licensing works. We love to keep you on your toes with these sort of things, so it's always worth reviewing. in a nutshell, if you are anything but a field worker, you need to get, and you want to use Tracker, you're going to need to get a premium app license add-on. If you're a field worker user type, you're going to be able to do the tracking capabilities. However, field workers can't prepare maps in the web app like a creator or a GIS professional can. So we used to have this paradigm of like anything the user type below me can do, I can also do, and more. So looking at, for example, if you're an editor, you can do all the things that a viewer can, plus edit maps or edit data. If you're a field worker, you can do all the things that an editor can, plus use the field apps. That paradigm kind of breaks a bit here because a creator or a GIS professional doesn't inherit tracking capabilities just by being a more powerful user type. So if that wasn't super confusing enough, my recommendation would just be, if you're looking at a field workflow where you need tracking capabilities, reach out to your account team and we'll help you get exactly what you need. We can build out test users of the various types to show you what they can and can't do. We'll walk through it with you and make it as simple as possible. So I'm going to switch gears here now. That was my first 20-minute overview of everything I would want to share with you if that was all the time I had. Now we're going to dig in a little deeper and talk about the roadmap, what was released in 2021 as a review. And hopefully that gives you, some confidence that these capabilities are all there. There's nothing that's missing from the three former apps. And then we'll talk about some really exciting stuff that was either just released in March or is coming up in the next couple quarters. So in early 2021, this was right after we had announced, hey, Field Maps is a thing now, and you've got 1 year transition to it before we deprecate Collector, Explorer, and Tracker. So these were kind of the first capabilities that were released right away. There's this whole ability to set up the settings for individual maps and how they're going to perform in a field workflow from within the web app. So what map tools are you going to make available? Are you going to let users edit multiple features at the same time? If somebody's dropped a pin, can they take the action to collect at that pin? Can they copy features? What kind of accuracy do you want in your collection? Do you need streaming turned on? Should snapping be available? What kind of photo size do you want to limit your attachments to? All of these collection settings are available in the web application. Again, location tracking became available. So the Tracker add-on license, we've already been over that, but the new track lines layer, again, I think it's really cool. It just has a lot of metadata in it that is neat to see, that average speed, vertical accuracy. Maybe some of you had done one of the virtual UC 5Ks where we were using quick capture. Now you get some of that detailed metadata in with Tracker as well. And then the mobile app updates that were available right away. Again, Field Maps is not only meant to bring together the functionality of the disparate apps, but also to improve the user experience overall. So from within the mobile app, in the upper right little GIF, you're seeing somebody on a tablet who is taking screenshots, and you can do full-size screenshots with a markup native to iOS devices, which is really handy. There are some cool quick actions as well from the home screen, and it also supports multiple photo selections. There's always going to be a few experimental settings as we're working on improving this app further, things that the product team loves to test out and get your feedback on. So you can toggle those experimental features on or off, like if you want to try the new measure experience or if you don't. So, and then the other thing within the web app that I'll mention, support for group layers is a biggie. I know that group layers are very handy for organizing your map, being able to turn a whole set of things, for example, all your assets on and off at once. You can also add layers to your map if you forgot something or you need to enhance something. Oh, park boundaries would actually be really helpful. You can add that right from within the web application. And you can also display all of the maps that are available to a given user in kind of a compact view. So I'll show you guys that when we go in. The, that should, oh, that is 2022. Phew, I thought I missed an edit there. So the thing that we released in Q1 2022, these are some things I'm really excited about. Calculated expressions, which I'm going to show you, but these are kind of the same thing as the calculated rules, attribute rules that you might have in Pro if you're doing, if you have your data in an enterprise geodatabase and you place a new hydrant and you need to automatically populate the area field to represent some polygon that the point falls within. So calculated expressions were just released. They're supported. You can write arcade expressions to calculate one attribute off of another, but this is only in ArcGIS Online. It has the update first. We'll expect to see it in future releases of Enterprise. The streamlined use of location profiles using mobile device managers is another new feature. Form elements, I'll show you shortly. The really, really big deal for our transportation customers is the ability to find a measure. So get the closest M value from a linear referencing system that is perpendicular to the point along the route that was selected. I have seen customers try, near me apps to accomplish this. It's now going to be linear referencing systems will now be natively supported within field maps. And that is a really big deal for those that work with LRS data. Some of the stuff that's coming soon include geo-triggers. I'm also pumped about this beta testing because the ability to notify workers or automatically start and stop their location tracking based upon crossing a certain threshold or entering a certain location has a lot of promise, especially transportation comes to mind again. And a user who told me they wanted to put some sort of auditory and visual cue on an app that would be used by folks that drive mowers, riding lawnmowers who take care of the medians in state-owned highways or state areas of state responsibility. They wanted to be alerted when entering an area that either there's an expensive fiber box there, or it could be a protected habitat where maybe the damage to that habitat would incur multiple lawsuits. So it was of the utmost importance in this use case for the mowers to be able to be alerted and to see if they were going to be driving upon a location that they need to avoid. So I think geo-triggers is the solution for that. And I'm really excited to see how beta testing goes. Utility networks are going to join LRS support, and we'll be able to support connected network tracing coming soon. And then building upon floor maps, you could choose like a floor picker in field. We're also going to be doing indoor positioning and editing. This is a big deal if you are building rather than low down and you need to collect values with your well. I think would enhance the product to make your easier We do always encourage you to go to the Field Maps ideas page in Esri community, throw your idea in there, get your coworkers to vote for it. The product teams really, really do look at these pages to determine their roadmaps. And I can advocate for your idea. There's a lot of opportunities that I have, but they're probably not as powerful as putting your upvote in the always encourage vote in an ideas page. So I'm going to virtually introduce my coworker, Matt Robinson. He is a solution engineer out of Esri, Chicago, and he recorded this video. It's a video demo of the mobile component of Field Maps. And then I'm going to show you the web component. I just figured it's easier in this sort of presentation to not get my phone out and switch the presenter to my phone. It's always a mess. So I'm going to watch the chat and see if anyone tells me they can't hear this audio. Otherwise, if all works well, it's about a 4-minute video, and it should be a nice summary of everything I just told you about in terms of Field Maps capabilities. So this came from the Midwest User Conference that we just had in Chicago about a month ago. So if you hear any references to that, that's where the video came from. Okay, so wish me luck.
I'm outside here in one of Chicago's beautiful lakefront parks, not too far from my apartment. Now, as the snow melts and spring approaches, more and more city residents like myself will begin to flock to outdoor destinations like this. So it's very important to ensure that you have an accurate asset inventory and maintenance plan to ensure that park assets are safe to use. So to help achieve this, today we're going to be looking at Esri's premier Maps app for iOS and Android devices called ArcGIS Field Maps. Field Maps allows you to view the maps that you have in ArcGIS, to collect and update authoritative data in the field, and to track where you've been, all within a single mobile app. Field Maps integrates with your ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise environments to provide every user with access to maps in the field. As a field worker user type, I have access to my own maps and maps that have been shared with me. In cases where I need to work offline, Field Maps can provide pre-configured offline areas for easy download. We're working online today, so let's open up my park assets map. We can see all our park assets along with smart labeling and symbology built with Arcade that Field Maps can display, including being able to see assets symbolized by the status of their most recent work order, which comes from a related feature layer. Last year, a new playground was installed, and we haven't collected the new assets associated with it, like this path leading up to it. We can speed up asset collection and improve data quality by providing pre-configured attribute rules in our dataset. For example, if I create a trail, I'm presented with a different set of materials than if I were to select a sidewalk. This path is a sidewalk, so we'll start by snapping it to the existing path network and then use streaming to collect my position as I walk along the path. You can configure Field Maps to drop a point based on a time or a distance interval, and while I'm only getting GPS accuracy as good as my cell coverage, you can connect a high accuracy GNSS receiver to achieve better positioning. Now that we've collected our sidewalk, we also need to capture the playground facility as a new asset. So we'll drop a point over the playground and start collecting attributes. Using Arcade and the new calculated expressions that will be released next week, we can populate fields like the park name automatically based on other features in the map. This eliminates the guesswork during data collection. I'll also grab a photo for the facility and submit it. They installed a new light post here by the playground, and I need to collect it as well. I know the style of light post is the same as others here in the park that I just walked by, so I can turn on my tracks to see where I've been and find an existing light pole along that route. Clicking on an existing light allows me to copy the feature's attributes and shape. We'll copy all and bring us back to our location to create the light. You can see all the information is pre-populated. All I need to do is change the installation date to last year. This can be a big time saver in the field when collecting many of the same types of assets. I have one last field assignment to complete. If you're generating assets from drone or aerial imagery using deep learning like Nicole showed us earlier, field verification is important. For example, extracting light poles from imagery won't capture the material they're built with, but using Field Maps' batch edit function, I can select all these newly created poles and adjust their material type, their asset type, and their installation date in a single edit, saving me a lot of time in the field. I'm outside here in one of Chicago's.
All right. So apologies that I did not show you any deep learning demo before that. I did in the plenary session at Midwest UC. Maybe that's the topic for a future Lunch and Learn. But as Matt so kindly walked us through, so many things that you can do in the single mobile application now that's really powerful. So I'm going to switch over to sharing my browser real quick and show you how to set up some of these awesome things from within the web application. So I'm in an ArcGIS Online organization, and I'm part of a group that Matt kindly put all of that great content in for his Park Assets fieldwork. So we're going to be working on a map called Park Assets form. I'll just show you what this looks like real quick and what it contains. So we have both point locations of park assets, as well as work orders in a related table. And another thing that we're going to leverage are these park boundaries themselves. So let's go back and open up the web app. It's right here. And this is where someone who's in the office would do all of the configuration at the map level. So right now, I'm viewing them all as a grid, but one of those enhancements was to streamline that a bit and show it as a table. You can also filter by the maps that you own, and you can hide the maps that you don't need people to be collecting upon within your organization. So let's open up the Park Assets Form map and take a look at the options available here. So again, this content screen at left, it looks pretty similar to the web map itself, and especially in the new map viewer. You see almost the same exact menu on the left, but then we're calling this the canvas here. This is how you're configuring the templates and form for each of those layers that are editable. So one of the things I wanted to show you were, for example, under work orders, you can set up a field to be displayed contingently based on another value. So let's say I only want notes to be available if a particular type of asset is being handled or a particular work type is being done. So if it is work type repair, then it kind of gives you this little arcade syntax preview. And now we will only see the notes field if the work type above has been answered as repair. We also have some form capabilities. You'll notice that these forms are a lot smarter and there's a lot more options than just configuring the pop-up as we did in the older paradigm. So now with the status field, I can choose whether it should be drop down or radio buttons. We can also choose how our dates are going to be displayed, whether it's date or date and time, and if the field is required. So there's a lot of ways that you can improve your form and make it easier for your field workers to use. So I'm gonna not save those changes in Matt's form right now. And I'll move over to the park assets layer where I want to show you the calculated expression option. So let me just grab a little arcade expression. Let's say when we add a new asset, like Matt added those light posts, we want it to auto-populate the park that the light post point has fallen within. So under calculated expressions, we'll add a new expression. And this one is using an intersects function to take the feature that was just created and create a feature set out of the Chicago park boundaries layer within the map. And then it's going to return the text from the first parks layer and only the park attribute that feature intersects. So if we test this out, we should just be getting the name of a park. So that is a really handy way to keep your data clean and to enable your field workers to do more rapidly without having to enter every single field here. So I'm going to be pretty brief on the rest of the web app because I do want to get into some nitty-gritty stuff for the last 10-15 minutes of the presentation. But just to show you an overview, the offline capabilities have their own configuration page. So there's almost like a checks and balances area where it will go through the layers as well as any custom base maps your organization may be using and make sure that they are supported for offline work. And so you will have a warning and you'll need to rectify those issues before you can enable offline mode. This would also be where you could set up map areas in advance and determine how your device is going to handle features, whether it's going to download and get updates for features or also attachments, and etc. The app settings itself, I had a few screenshots on these where you can specify, your photo upload size or whether you want to use snapping or streaming, or you can specify what happens when you drop a pin or click on something on the map. And as well as if you want to be able to copy attributes, shapes, or both, as Matt demonstrated with copying the attributes from the other light post that was already in the park. And that was cool because he had showed it as his location was tracking while walking throughout the park. Just awesome demo all around. I'm glad I could share it with you today. And then finally, if you want to enable your map to be shared via QR code or link, or hide it altogether in Field Maps Mobile, you can set those sharing parameters up here. So I'll jump back to my presentation.
I'm outside.
And we'll dig in just a bit closer for the last quarter of this presentation. Hope you guys are all enjoying your lunch, if you are indeed eating while learning. I myself am an Android user. I have no business being on this screen, but alas, we are really integrated with Apple here at Esri. We have some great features that are unique to iOS devices. They're really so cool. It makes me want to switch back to an iPhone for my work device. I think I'm going to finally do it actually. But one of the neat things that Matt showed at the Midwest UC was that he opened a national park map, not signed in as a user at all. So it was just a shared map. And he scribbled a spot on it using markup of where he might like to meet. And then he shared that directly via iMessage or via a quick share action to other iOS users. So there are some neat things that you can do if you are an iOS device user. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention high accuracy data collection. We know that these workflows are very important in surveying and construction and land management, etc. So for those users that do need better GPS accuracy, just like with ArcGIS Collector, you can integrate high accuracy devices with ArcGIS Field Maps. So we have some key partners in Garmin, Trimble. I personally use Trimble devices often, much like these R2s that are mounted on the 8-foot pole. Although I've also done some field collection lately in a cemetery where we had a gas agency out volunteering, and they were using the neat ones that are in backpacks, which look way more handy than carrying the pole around. So lots of options. The point is that Field Maps does integrate with high accuracy providers. You'll basically set up that receiver, whether it's like a Bluetooth receiver, for example, or we see a lot of people using the bad elf ones. You'll set up a new location provider and refine its location profile, and then that can be shared at the map level with those in your organization. And this is done via the app settings. So again, I use the R2 pretty frequently. You can choose if the location provider should just be the built-in one of your phone, or if you are connecting to that specific device. Now, taking web maps offline. This is something that we could have an entire lunch and learn about. Because there's a lot of idiosyncrasies to the process and a couple different ways that you can do it. The 3 ways are that you can define the offline areas as part of the web map. So in the Field Maps web application, that's one way to define those areas in advance. You could also create them on the fly. If you're the end user, you can create a new offline area in your mobile app, or you can create and download mobile map packages and sideload them onto the devices. My recommendation, if you are doing a new offline workflow or just wanting to refresh your understanding of the options, would be to take a look at this white paper called Take Your Web Maps Offline. It'll walk you through all the options. I'll attempt to give you a really quick overview now. So if you are going to create offline web maps as a whole, the prerequisites are that you have sync-enabled features that at least one must be editable within your map that is exposed via Field Maps. You'll need global IDs, and if you're working in enterprise, archiving or versioning. The layers that you can export include rasters, vectors, and images. And then the web map itself must also be enabled for offline use, which you have that option there in the Field Maps web app. So the first option I referred to was defining those offline areas there from the offline mode page. Again, I kind of pointed out how you have this little check to make sure that all of your layers that are going to be sync enabled, and that you have something that's actually editable. This is the quickest, or maybe the most scalable way to do this, but you are limited to 16 offline areas. It's going to be more simple for your mobile users and the most easy to sync between the field and the office, but there are some limitations with regard to the enterprise version that you must have. If the services are secured, you need at least 10.8. And then once the offline areas are created, accessing the original map in the mobile device becomes harder. I'll leave it at that. Now, you can, however, schedule updates, and this has a huge benefit to basically choose a regular interval at which the offline map packages are going to be created. This is supported for read-only workflows, which is cool. but you need to have a plan in mind, defined on an individual area, and knowing how often that data is going to change. Let's see, keeping an eye on the time, I'll just briefly mention the two other ways to handle offline mapping. The next way would be for the end user to do it themselves in the mobile app. So say they know that they're going to be entering an area with no connectivity, they can quickly generate the offline area and even use that in conjunction with a pre-planned map area that may have been created for them. So this is the most flexible option, but your users will have to be pretty familiar with the work area already to know that they need to do this while they're still in a, while they still have Wi-Fi. It'll take a bit more training, but and it does perform slower and places a higher load on the server. And then finally, maybe one of the ways that perhaps have been used the longest would be to create and download mobile map packages and then load those onto devices. So this would be a way to leverage ArcGIS Pro to get the most advanced symbology options, to include your routing data, but the limitations would be that the maps are going to be view only and can't be updated in the field, and also that it's more challenging to distribute the MMPKs, to distribute updates. So those were the three ways that you can handle offline mapping. But again, getting into that in great detail, I would recommend going to the white paper and again, coming to your account team. If you don't know your account team, your solution engineer, you can reach out to me. I'll help you or put you in touch with the appropriate personnel. And we look forward to helping you. So I'll kind of end there and just recap why I think field maps is cool. It's all of these different applications and capabilities in one single app. It does rule all the others. Kidding, but to be fair, we do have those specialty apps like Quick Capture for rapid data collection, or Survey 123 for very form-based workflows that are even next level from the smart forms that are now available in field maps. We have things like Mission, ArcGIS Mission, which is a standalone app. So while field maps doesn't technically rule them all, it does bring together 3 so far and eventually 5 apps that used to be standalone. So it's a great step in the right direction, I think, to make it easier on our users. And again, if you are realizing now that the Collector, Explorer, Tracker have been deprecated and you need to get a move on, just reach out to me at ngrams@esri.com. Be happy to help you out. So I'll stop there, seeing that we have about 7 minutes left, and review the chat and see if I can hide that chat window. Okay, so we have Lee from CAM asking, what version of Portal for the Field Maps web configuration? I believe that it's 10.8. Let me double check that for you. I might actually just take a screen or save this chat. That's what I'll do, so that I can get back to anyone whose question I don't know offhand. Okay, so a general question regarding an Explorer app that's often used for publicly available county parcel info. Will that be retired, or should I use field maps for that capability in the future? Great question. You can use field maps for that. Again, you can set your map up to be accessed anonymously so that a user does not need to sign in to view it. So that sounds like it would be the perfect fit for some publicly available parcel info. Someone, looks like Kenneth, is looking for a specific document that precisely outlines steps to configure the field map. We do have a white paper that is about moving from Collector to field maps, or like doing that migration. I hesitate to even call it a migration, but so there's one like that. I think, Kenneth, that we have some training that might document the field, the map component of field maps. So let me take a look at that. Someone from I'm saving the chat right now. Okay, perfect. I think it might be a CAM moderator who gets the saved chat, but if we can get in touch about that. Oh, actually, okay, cool. I have the saved chat in a meeting folder too. Sweet.
Nicole, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, my headset died right before I was about to help you read the questions.
Oh, no problem.
I think you've covered all the ones I've seen. So
yeah, and I'll reach out to those individuals now that I've figured out how to save the chat with any suggestions. But yeah, I think I'll cover those. And Erika, you have access to the recording to share, or maybe Lee does, but
yeah, Cam will post it on the website and an email will go out.
Perfect. Okay, then. Well, yeah, that looks like all the questions.
I do want to mention that we will be offering a pre-conference workshop on field maps at the conference in Manhattan. And it will be an all-day class, and it will be building a data collection project from start to finish using the Trimble GPS receivers. So if you're interested in this, please be sure to check out that pre-conference workshop.
That sounds awesome.